different than the previous presentation because our point of view is very different. It's our mother tongue, and we were never taught our dialect in a school or with a teacher, so it's not obvious for us to explain the grammar or the rules. And it's the language we use every day with our friends, with our family, even in TV. We do everything in our dialect except when we go to school and we have to use standard modern Greek. So for us it's what we use every day. Of course we don't talk the same way our grandparents do, but our grandparents don't talk the same way their grandparents did. So I think it will be more of a historical and influences and then some examples so you can hear how it sounds. So feel free to ask whatever you want, because some things for us are, let's say, obvious because we use it every day, but yeah, you can ask whatever you want, Eleni.
Languages and dialects are closely related to the geographical, historical and political situation of a region. We will do an overview of situation in Cyprus and focus on the Cypriot Greek dialect, which is the one used by the majority of population. Cyprus is located in the Eastern Mediterranean, and it is very close to the Near East coast, Egypt and Turkey, but it is also not far from the Aegean. Since antiquity, Cyprus has been at the center of various influences from the surrounding areas, as well as part of different empires or under foreign forces. We can briefly mention the Roman and Byzantine empires, Franks and Venetians, the Ottomans and the English. Cyprus obtained its independence in 1960, but in 1974, after a politically turbulent period for the island, Turkey invaded Cyprus and since then occupies more than 13% of its territory. Of course, all these political change and interactions influences strongly the languages and dialects of the island.
So, according to the Constitution of Cyprus, the official languages are Greek and Turkish, the standard modern Greek and Turkish. But the population of the island, the everyday spoken language is for the Greek Cypriots, the Greek Cypriot Dialect, and for the Turkish Cypriots, the Turkish Cypriot Dialect. The Greek Cypriots are the 77% of the population and the Turkish Cypriots 18%, even though now the situation is very complicated and most of the Turkish Cypriots live in the northern area of the island. But there is a 4% of other communities in Cyprus, and between these communities we find the Armenian Cypriots, which speak Armenian, the Maronite Cypriots, which speak Cypriot Arabic. The Maronite Cypriots came during the medieval period in Cyprus, but unfortunately their language is an endangered language, mainly because of the dislocation of this population. So this population lived in a specific area in Cyprus, and after the Turkish invasion they were relocated in the southern part of the island, and they do not live anymore in the same area, so it's harder for them to keep learning this language. And these two groups, the Armenians and the Maronites, are also officially recognized as religious minority religious groups in Cyprus. And the last language we find in Cyprus is Uzbekcha, which is the language of the Cypriot Roma. So now let's focus on the Greek Cypriot dialect.
Okay. It It is a dialect which differs from Standard Modern Greek to the point that a speaker of Standard Modern Greek is not able to understand it. It is very complicated to explain in terms of linguistics and differences from Standard Modern Greek, but one can easily notice a difference in the use of consonants, as Cypriot dialect and uses consonants such as che, chu, ju, su.
Let's say, for example, the same way the Italian, in Greco, they say che also, but in modern Greek we say che. We also say che, or in other cases.
Also, consonants are often double. Σήμερα, ήλιος.
For example, in modern Greek we say σήμερα, and in Cyprus we say σήμερα. Or even words that are written with a double consonant, in Greece they will pronounce them as if there was only one, let's say, Allah, but we say Allah. It's a double, it's like in Italian. Yeah, like in Italian, yes. And Greek and the normal Italian also there is this double.
I think Greek will say that in Cyprus we sing when we talk. The Cypriot dialect has many loan words coming from Old French, Italian, Provençal, Turkish, and increasingly from English. It is also includes some Arabic expressions and occasional use of some archaic vocabulary.
Like the same way they explained before, we also have some characteristic of the grammar. For example, the verb I play, παίζω, in the third person of the plural, we use an archaic type, which in modern Greek is παίζουν. And in Cyprus it would be παίζουσιν.
It's the same as for us.
Παίζουσιν, which is an archaic type of the verb.
There is no established orthography for Cypriot Greek. In some cases, the diacritics are used on the Greek alphabet to represent the difference in pronunciation of the consonants.
You can see some examples here, for example these. But you can also see that the orthography is not always the same, because this word and this word are the same. It's que, che. So in one case you have che with tau, kaf, zeta, and the sign. And then there is ke with kappa and the sign. So I know it's not standardized.
Can you read the first line? Just to hear it.
Θυμάσαι που αγαπιόμασταν και μες στη μια νοφιά επίαμε και μπήκαμε σε μια καλοσπιτιά και έβαλα γιο το σπίτι και σου τη σπιριτιά και τρίψε άψαση και πήρασε φωτιά.
We are not going to translate it.
Okay. Please translate.
Why?
Okay, you translate, please. Right on.
No, it's like a laughing. We will translate when we will do later.
No
translation for this.
Okay, I'm going to translate later in the break.
Yeah, you will understand why, because it's very common when we have this kind of poems to have this content. So the Greek Cypriot dialect has a mainly oral use, and its use in literature is very limited. So even though it's our everyday language, we have relatively few examples in literature. And in the past, the first written documents we have in Cypriot date from the medieval period. And in the past 100 years, it has mainly been used in poetry. These are the two major poets in the past century, Vasilis Michailidis and Dimitris Lipertis, which chose a small part of a poem of Vasilis Michailidis, which is a very long poem written at the end of the 19th century and published in 1911. And Maria will read this for you so you can hear how this sounds and how the dialect sounds.
Ανταναρτσέψαν οι κρυφοί ανέμοι και φυσούσαν και αρκίνησαν στην Τουρκιά να κρυφοσυννεφιάζει και που τις 4 μερκές τα νέφη κουβαλούσαν ώστε να κάμουν τον καιρό να αρτσεύκει να στιβάζει ήσεν Γιαννή χανούλοι τους και Κύπρου το κρυφόν της μες στους ανέμους τους κρυφούς ήσεν το μερτικόν της και αντανεφάνει στραπή εις του μοριά τα μέρη και ξάπλωσεν και ακούστηκε παντού η μπουρκά της κι ούλα ξυλαμπρατσίσασιν και θάλασσα και ξέρει ήσεν Γιαννή χανούλοι τους και Κύπρου τα κακά της. This is how it sounds.